Well, hi everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of Feeling Smarter. As always, I'm joined by my co-host, Tim Miller. G'day, Tim, how are you?
Going very well, Aaron. How are you doing?
Not too bad, thank you. And we were just joking that it would be nice if we came up with a different way of introducing ourselves, but we're here and we're back once again to talk about all things SMSF, and specifically, we're here to continue the conversation around trusteeship within a fund and membership as well, which, as I said, will be becoming a big part of our SMSF masterclass on the 25th of November. But today, we're going to talk about some of the practical issues in appointing trustees and members. So, Tim, we may as well start at the beginning, which is all about when we're looking at setting up a self-managed fund and understanding those obligations that we need to put in place. And it sounds really simple because we see so many SMSF set up, but there are a number of important things that we need to contemplate and ensure we get right from day one.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of it starts, Aaron, with the decision, the first decision that you make. I mean, obviously, the first decision a lot of people make is, will I have a self-managed super fund? Yes or no? And then what am I going to call it? So let's get past those two decisions, and then they contemplate what's the trustee structure going to be of the fund. And we will no doubt in the masterclass delve into the individual versus corporate trustee piece. That's probably the first practical element to contemplate, because if we're talking about a fund where we've got membership where people maybe can't be trustees, so for example, you set a fund up with your children and the children are under the age of 18,
Yep.
then it becomes quite relevant as to the corporate or the trustee structure, because we know that under 18 children can't be trustees, right? And nor can they be directors. But what that then means is when they turn 18, they will become a director or they will become a trustee. So are you creating more work for yourself by having individual trustees and having to change the title on all of the assets of the fund from a practical sense because you're adding these children into that trustee capacity?
And we've got some prescribed timeframes that we've got to meet as well. We can't just go, they're 18 and a half now, we better sort this out. Once they
That's
turn
right.
18, we're obliged to get that reporting done within the timeframes as prescribed within
Yeah.
the Corporations Act and also within SITS.
That's right, and so from a corporate trustee point of view, you've also got those timeframes with ASIC and appointment of directors and things, and obviously getting director IDs and that as well. So all those things to contemplate. But that's what we look at when we're starting a fund up. But then those practical situations continue to arise throughout the life cycle of the fund. And you and I spoke in last week's video about enduring power of attorney and appointing the enduring power of attorney to the trusteeship of the fund. And I can go all the way back to my very beginnings in self-managed super, to the number of occurrences where the auditors would turn around and say, well, whose signature is this on the financial statements? And you'd go back to the fund and say, who signed this? And they say, oh, well, that's my power of attorney, or that's this person because I was away, and so this person has power of attorney over me, so they've signed the financials. So, well, you can't do that. It's one of those practical things, is that yes, the law provides you with the capacity to appoint somebody who holds an enduring power of attorney, and again, ensuring you have the right type of power of attorney there, but it doesn't mean that that person can sign on your behalf. It means that person is replacing you as trustee, so you have to go through the whole removal and appointment process, and then they can start signing things.
Yeah, and I guess this is where sometimes you see that alternate director in that position as well. So again, understanding the nuances between what role that person is going to play and the procedural steps that need to occur do become really important there. So let's then kind of move the needle along from that establishment bit to points in time where we might want to be bringing someone into the fund or potentially removing. Again, let's think about some of the practical considerations that we need to get right at this point in time.
Yeah, so look, obviously we touched already on the asset title piece, right, as far as appointing and removing. But I think one of the other important pieces, as we only just alluded to, is obviously the notification from a regulatory point, so notifying the ATO. And this is an area that I think, the law is not always kept up with by the systems, right? And one of the things that I've noticed, particularly in all the times that I've worked in admin, is when you're trying to do the right thing by appointment and removal processes with the ATO systems don't just accept it. They don't just accept the fact that the member is no longer the trustee of the fund, and this random person who isn't random to the member, but is random to the ATO, is now trying to be appointed. And that can just, it can often just create additional communication and requirements that you need to sort out with the regulator to ensure that in their system that the fund is still meeting all the requirements that it needs to, and matching with the data that you've got in your software or whatever it might be.
Yeah, and I think the other bit that stands out to me at this point in time is really when you're setting up a fund, yeah, sure, you might get something off the shelf that deals with the deed and the constitution, that deals with, say, mum and dad at that point in time. But then you're looking to add other parties into the fund. It's important that you understand how decision making might change as a result of additional parties coming into the fund, because quite clearly you've got responsibilities at a director level, but then that shareholding does then become important as well. Because the other thing that is worth recounting at this point in time is the fact that when we look at the definition of an SMSF and we talk about members and trustees, well, there is absolutely no reference to shareholding. And we know what role shareholding can actually play in the decisions that could actually happen in an SMSF as well.
Yeah, well, particularly given that a lot of the constitutions out there, when we're talking about appointments and removals and those sorts of things, you need to have a meeting of the shareholders. So it's not necessarily a meeting of the directors; it's a meeting of the shareholders. So when you confronted with, say, loss of capacity or indeed death of a member, it's about ensuring that you're getting the right people together, and whether or not you potentially need to go through in death, might need to go through probate to have shares issued to some other party, so they can then make a decision to appoint somebody as the legal person representative to act as trustee of the fund. So all of these sorts of things can become quite cumbersome from a process point of view.
Yeah, so we see quite often understanding within the Constitution. So again, this is a byproduct of special purpose constitutions versus standard constitutions, and what happens with that with the shares of the person that is becoming incapacitated. So does all the decision making under those shares in essence get migrated over to that person that holds that enduring power of attorney? So in essence, they are making all those decisions as if the member was capable of making at that point in time, or in the event of death, do those shares actually go over and form part of the estate, or as a result of them ceasing to be a member of the fund, do those shares in essence get forfeited, and therefore there's a whole raft of other stuff that needs to be reported from an ASIC point of view. So to me, it's all about attention to detail here and ensuring that all these things are following the dotted line that needs to be moved along. Because I've also seen with members in recent times sort of come to us and say, well, we've seen situations whereby financial institutions are now also wanting to see things like member registers and so forth, and checking the process to make sure all the ducks are lined up. And if they're not, well, then there's naturally a fairly substantial flow and change that needs to occur in this, which might mean we've got bank accounts that are frozen or other things at a point in time where you might not necessarily want that to occur. So the changing sounds fairly simple at the sort of top level, but once you start to peel some of these layers back, it really does highlight the importance of getting those structural changes right in accordance with what the deed and what the Constitution actually requires you to do.
Yeah, 100%.
All right, well, that will take us in essence through to the conclusion of our little mini series here on trustee and member changes. Of course, we have our SMSF masterclass on this topic on Tuesday, the 25th of November. Visit our website, smartersmsf.com/events to sign up. Thanks again, Tim.
Always a pleasure.
Look forward to joining us next week. Take care and bye for now.
Bye all.